Good morning, everyone. My name is Hina Kochar from MBA Semester 2. Today, for the subject Financial Management, I have taken the topic Dividend Theories and Optimal Payout Ratios. First, moving ahead, I would like to discuss what does a dividend means. Dividend refers to the part of the profits of the company which is distributed by the company among the shareholders. In dividend theories, we have two theories. The first is relevance theory and the other is irrelevance theory. In relevance theory, we have then two models. The first is Walter's model and Gordon's model. The relevance theory says that the dividend decision affects the value of the firm, and irrelevance theory says that the dividend decision do not affect the value of the firm. That means, irrespective of the payment of the dividend, the value of the firm does not change. Now we'll be discussing the relevant theories of dividend one by one. The first one is Walter's approach, which is given by the Professor James A. Walter. He suggests that dividend policy and investment policy of a firm cannot be isolated. Rather, they are interlinked. And he says that the choice of the dividend policy affects the value of a firm. His preposition clearly states the relationship between the firm's internal rate of return, which is denoted by small r, and the cost of equity, which is denoted by KE. Here we can see the formula of calculating the market price of equity share, which is denoted by P is equal to D plus R upon K in brackets E minus D K, where P is the value of market price of equity share which we need to calculate. Then the next we have D, which is the dividend per share. Then we have earning per share, which is denoted by E minus G, which is the retained earnings per share. R is the internal rate of uh, or internal return on the investment, and then we have K, which is cost of capital, or we can say KE, which is cost of equity. Next, we'll discuss the assumptions of the Walters model. The first is the firm finances all the investment through retained earnings. That is, debt or new equity is not issued, which means all the financing through retained earnings is done by the firm. That is, external sources of funds like debt or new equity capital is not being used. Next is the assumption that the firm's internal rate of return, that is denoted by R, small r, and its cost of capital are always constant. That is assumed. Then next is all earnings are either distributed as dividend or reinvested internally immediately, which means the proportion of the profits earned by the firm will be divided to the shareholders as the dividend, or it will be reinvested in some other project. Then the next assumption we have, beginning earnings and dividends never change. The value of the earnings per share and the dividend per share may be changed in the model to determine the results, but any given values of E and D are assumed to remain constant forever in determining a given value. Then the next we have, the firm has a very long or infinite life, which means the firm will go for a finite life. Now, the Gordon's approach. The Gordon's approach says that the dividend policy depends on the profitable investment opportunities, which means if a firm sees any opportunity, then they will surely invest in that. This approach was given by Myron Gordon, who explains how dividend policy of a firm is a basis of establishing share value. For that, he gave a formula which is being written here. P0 is equal to E1 in brackets 1 minus B K minus BR. Here P0 is equals to the price per share at the end of year 0. Then we have earnings per share, which is denoted by E1. Then we have 1 minus B, fraction of earnings the firm distributes by way of dividends. Right? B is the fraction of earnings the firm flows back. K is equals to the rate of return required by shareholders, or we can say it is KE. Then the next is R. R is equals to the rate of return earned on investments made by the firm. Then we have BR, which is the growth rate of dividend and earnings. The models provided by Walter and Gordon lead to the following implication, and as we can see in the screen. Here are some assumptions of Gordon's model. The first one is the firm is an all equity firm. Then the next is no external financing is available. That means only retained earnings are used to finance the investment programs. Then the next is the internal rate of return, that is denoted by R, and the capitalization rate of cost of capital is constant. Then the next is the firm has perpetual or long life, and the corporate taxes do not exist. That is what we assume. And then the last one is the retention ratio, which is denoted by B. Once decided upon is constant, and thus the growth rate, which is denoted by G, is equals to BR. Nextly, we will discuss the optimal payout ratios. Here, the Walters model and the Gordon's model divides the firm into three groups. That is, first is growth firm, the other is declining firm, and the third one is normal firm. In the case of growth firm, when R is greater than KE, that is, the rate of return is more than the cost of equity, the value per share P increases, since the retention ratio, which is denoted by B, increases. That is, P increases with decrease in dividend payout ratio. In short, we can say that under this condition, the firm should distribute smaller dividends and should retain higher earnings. Next, we have the declining firms. Here, the R is less than KE. That means the value per share P decreases since the retention ratio, which is B, increases. That is, P increases with increase in the dividend payout ratio. It can be proved that the value of B increases, the value of the share continuously falls. If the internal rate of return is smaller than K, which is equal to the rate available in the market, profit retention clearly becomes undesirable from the shareholder's viewpoint. Each additional rupee retained reduces the amount of funds that shareholders could invest at a higher rate elsewhere, and thus it further reduces the value of company's share. Then the last one, we have the normal firms, where R is equal to K. The value of the firm is not affected by the dividend policy and is equal to the book value of the assets. That is when R is equals to K. Dividend policy is irrelevant. It implies that under competitive conditions, the cost of equity must be equal to the rate of return, that is R, available to the investors in comparable shares in such a manner that any funds distributed as dividends may be invested in the market at the rate which is equal to the internal rate of return of the firm. Nextly, we'll be discussing the irrelevant theories of dividend. Here we have Modigliani and Miller's approach, or we can say MM approach. This hypothesis provides the irrelevance concept of dividend in a comprehensive manner. According to them, the dividend policy of a firm is irrelevant since it does not have any effect on the price of the shares of a firm. That is, it does not affect the shareholders' wealth. Also, they express that the value of the firm is determined by the earnings power of the firm's asset or its investment policy, and not the dividend decisions by splitting the earnings of retentions and dividend. Here we can see the formula for calculating the market price per share, that is P0, which is equals to D1 plus P1 upon 1 plus KE. Here PO is equals to market price per share at the beginning of the period. D1 is the dividend to be received at the end of the period. P1 is the market price per share at the end of the period, and KE is the cost of equity. The assumptions of MM approach says that taxes do not exist. That is, there is no difference in tax rates between dividends and capital gains. Nextly, we have the investors behave rationally. It means that investors should prefer to maximize their wealth, and as such, they are indifferent between dividends and the appreciation in the value of shares. Then the next is investment policy of the firm does not change, that is, it is fixed. Also, the risk and uncertainty do not exist. In other words, we can say investors may predict future prices and dividends with certainty, and one discount rate is used for all types of securities at all time. Here, we have made the conclusion that the dividend policy is really concerned with the decisions regarding the division of net income of the firm into the dividends and the retained earning. That is, how much to retain and how much to distribute the dividends to the shareholders. Thus, the firm should determine the optimum dividend policy, which leads the firms to stockholders' wealth maximization. Also, a company can adopt either residual dividend policy or a stable dividend policy. Which one is the comfortable? Thank you so much.